to this day. Oh man, did I do that? Who did that?
No. Go ahead. I forgot to hit
Oh,
record a long time ago.
oh my bad. All
Yeah,
right, I'm
my
sorry.
bad.
But
I tried to slide it in there.
basically, it's some malicious and mindless acts in my brother case. For one, a failure to stop for a blue light at a stop sign end up in a fatality, which doesn't make no sense because for one, my brother never had no prior or criminal record. He was basically the good boy of the family, basically. But they lied in the paperwork. They lied in the documents. We have been fighting to get the documents and the video cam from the sheriff, which is fired now. They let him go. Um, the sheriff of North Carolina, where he came from, was basically family of the sheriff that was in South Carolina that he supposedly ran to, which he lived in South Carolina. He just worked in North Carolina. We never got the autopsy report. We didn't get to see him until the day of the funeral. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't no viewing the body or nothing like that. The coroner won't sign the paperwork for us to get the videos to the the body counts, which stated that it was two people, but it was people that living in the area saying it was more than three or four guys at the area. He supposedly hit a tree. The car supposedly caught on fire. He supposedly had burns. We didn't see none of that. They say they drug him out the back window. What none of the windows broke. And like it was a whole bunch of mischief in this case. And me personally, I'm a private national. Like I've have my status and everything changed, but my dad don't. And I basically got fed up with it, man. I'm fed up with it now. Like that he's not trying like how I could or my fellow brothers and sisters could. And I was just asking, what would you do, or is there any support do you know about in South Carolina?
Mm. South Carolina, because we out here in Khalifa territory. But I will say, um, I don't know how competent you are in law. Um,
I'm very competent. I'm rich. I wouldn't say I'm fighting the case right now, but I have dibbled and dabbled into federal court on the child support being unconstitutional. And then if that don't work, then I'm going above their head to the Supreme Court. So I'm 4-0 in the courtroom. I'm not kind of bragging, but I kind of won off no injured party and no jurisdiction. I've been studying with a lot of noble Moors. I know Walter Bay, Isan Bay. Like I know I wouldn't say the secret groups, but like the Moorish groups that's forming and stuff. I'm really familiar with Mia Moore, and I'm I'm here. No, I came out of nowhere. I was studying with the Supreme Mathematics 4 years ago. I've been doing the more science since. So I'm here and I know who I am. Ashe.
Islam.
As long
So,
as
so to answer your question, you know, with the competency that you're saying, you would apply that first will be your dad needs to be on board with the principles that you're going to be standing on.
yeah.
Um, that's one. You can't. That's just what it is.
So
You
you
can't
want
say
me to basically do it like a durable power of attorney? Make him like making me his durable power of attorney. So if he feel like he can't speak, I have the authority.
yeah, you can do that. You can do that. He can say if he signs off on that, then yeah, you can do that, and then you just go to work from there.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody has a right to legal counsel. You feel me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
representation and all that. Like if you're a power of attorney, that's the same thing as the attorneys. The private attorneys and the public attorneys that they offer. The only
Right.
difference is them dudes have a bar card, so they part of
Yeah, they're part of the British.
you know,
But
little private
yeah. Okay.
weirdos. I'm playing.
I feel that. I feel that. Okay. That's major, man. This is major right here because I'm doing it for my mom, but not thinking that okay, in this case right here, I could do it for my brother. But now that I can just make both of them. I mean, well, asking of their durable power, shit. I might as well. Wow, man. Like you put it in layman terms right in front of me, dude. I wasn't even thinking like that.
That's what they do, bro. That's what this whole like if you want to get assistance, if you go to them, you know, assistance places where they try to get you to, sign off that you either incompetent or crazy, and then that's how they get all this funding from your account because you're not handling that shit. It's a lot,
Yeah,
but yeah, that's what they're doing. They want people to be incompetent, pretty much, in the public systems. That's what they thrive off of.
yeah. I mean, that thriving stops now, but it's stopping right now. But it's just down here in the South, man. Oh my, like South Carolina is like one of those Bible so-called belt states, but it's like the tip of it, basically. Pause. Um, and I have witnessed the sheriffs here calling black so-called black fatalities gang like retaliations and activity when I know for a fact these boys have been out here just getting murdered off somebody messing with somebody girl or something or he's doing better than me, you know. And the sheriff that just now basically quit because I guess he knew the heat was gonna come down on him. His name is Chuck White. I'm sure he'd been on TV or whatever, but he has ruled all our fatalities here gang activity. It don't matter if it was a car wreck or anything. Like it's been war down here, and like it's nobody to speak up. Like I'm speaking up. I've been speaking up for the last 4 years, but we need a force, and we
Yeah.
don't have that. We don't have that force. Which I have wrote a lot of paperwork to the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, and they only replied to certain things, which I give them respect for that. But the the petitions and stuff, no, they haven't. You see, they don't even tell us like I forgot what they call it. I think they call it motivational speaking night here, when you can
You
actually.
gotta remember, out there it's still the South, bro. They still have the little secret societies like the KKK, and then different from the Freemasons.
Yeah,
Like,
you right. You right on that because Lee County has been exposed for secret societies going into the woods and stuff at night.
yeah, bro, I know all about that shit. Back when I was living in Texas and shit, my aunt, she would tell me stories. My tia, she would tell me stories that back then, one time me and my pops and her husband went out there to the what's it called? They had to stop because of their check their tire and shit. They stopped at the cemetery, and they was having a clan meeting there. So yeah, I mean that ain't that long ago for real. Had to be only like what 50 years ago,
Yeah, I
40.
definitely believe it, man.
Yeah,
I
man.
got a question.
What was that?
Troy,
What was
Sam.
peace and love, Troy. You got the floor, man.
So let's say, okay, so let's say I have no knowledge. Let's say I have no knowledge about the wisdoms that y'all are teaching, right? But I'm a young man who was able to recognize that there was a system put in place for me to not fail, but to, I guess like kind of just stay like subservient, kind of just stay mundane, stay chill, stay calm, right? But no matter where I go or what I did since from when I was able to think, like when I was able to talk, I always felt as though I knew more than I was supposed to. And whenever I would speak, people would show me that I knew more than I'm supposed to. But then when I would try to apply that into the real world, I would find out real fast that the shit that I think I'm supposed to know, I'm not. Okay, so then, but as I hear y'all speak, I hear y'all have been able to come together, create I guess, a sense of safety and peace in terms of how y'all can communicate with each other about your own conflicts, and I resonate with that. So what, like, if I had no knowledge about what y'all was teaching, like what I guess in like a top three or like in a sentence, like basically like you explaining it to a child, like what is it, what is it that you guys are teaching, like what is it that you guys are looking to provide to the people or provide to the world or just provide to somebody like me, just a young man, trying to figure out his way, trying to make something happen. I understand that it's shit that's been put in front of me that, what I'm saying, I understand that I don't know everything. You feel me? So what is it that I'm learning when I come into these meetings or when I come to, discuss or communicate with you all?
At the end
I
of the
got you.
day, it's nationality and birthright, bro. Nationality and birthright, civics. You know what I mean? Like that's the bottom line with how you get over. Because in modern day, commerce and everything else is run by their system. And if you don't know true law, they're gonna put what's it called?
Color of law.
Yup,
But see,
color law.
now, once again, well, I ain't gonna say once
That's
again, I'm not sure when you tapped into the call, but earlier I made a statement about you got the neophyte, you got the intermediate, you got the adept. So when you come into this paradigm, you're gonna learn about like what he said, nationality, your true nationality, distinguished from what you was taught, being black, Negro, color, Latino, Hispanic, which to keep
Indian.
you Indian, Native American, that keeps you away from knowing your nobility, how you ran the world, how you taught mathematics, science, how you built the pyramids, all the Taj Mahal style buildings, all the sultans and emperors we had, 95 percentage of the whole globe, sultans in the quote unquote Philippines, Russia, the Americas. This is actually the headquarters. This is actually North Africa. So that's gonna be mind blowing. Your first when you like I said, you gotta take it. If you serious, you're gonna take it serious like you went into college. You gonna come and get the lessons. You're gonna come to the community that's giving out the lessons. And then as you get grounded in it, what happens is you become a citizen of your community, i.e., when you look at Chinatown, Koreatown, Little Bangladesh, you see people that know their culture and doing what? Doing business with each other. They got love for each other. They know their culture, which takes your political status out of being a minority, which is derogatory. Minority is a political status of our people that don't know their culture, gang members, that we just want to be movie stars in their system. We don't work together. There's no representation. That's the flip side. So now you're a minority, political status, ward of the state. We filling up the jails. So we just getting our culture back, and like brothers like yourself, that's the youth. That's really what it's about because we got the energy. We got the energy to keep this thing going. Um, so the first level, get the lessons, get all the history because we've been taught K through 12, the history been told a certain way to keep you with an inferiority complex. You're the slave guy. You're not knowing about no nobility. You were just picking cotton. That's all the narrative. We want to get that reprogramming out, so we got to hit you with the lessons. And if you're serious, you're gonna come tap in, ask the questions, and we here for you. At the cold part, we're here. Now, once we get past that stage, now it's time to mobilize with the people, centralize finances. We got a treasury, put money into it. Like same way when you was black, Negro, colored, they got you thinking IRS. You're gonna put into a bank that's tied to a community that really represents you. Like right now, we're trying to get land. We have a treasury for a land trust project, right? So all Moors is putting into that. That's in this jurisdiction or any public donations that we get, right? So that's an example of what I mean by if you once you get this information, what's next? How does this benefit you? Because look, we about to get land. We about to do it on a personal level and on a community level. And what happens is now you can grow crops. Now you got businesses that come about, like we talked about earlier, people coming in and out the state. We could charge them for a daily rate. We got housing that the bank's not involved with, no mortgages, right? Because we got the land, how we acquired it. You put it in a trust. That's another part, international law, like the brother talked about earlier. When you learn trust law, you learn how to create generational wealth. A lot of our people were talking about generational wealth, but don't know exactly how do you make that come true. That's called a trust, right? That means you have organization. And when you know your culture, have organization, you on another level. You're on another level, right? So I know I said a lot, but hopefully that helps you out.
No, it definitely put a lot of things into perspective. I guess another question I would want to ask is like, let's say as a community, for this community specifically, let's say we work together. I guess it's the same thing though. I guess my question is kind of irrelevant because in my mind, I think I'm still focused on something from a individual perspective that would leave me as a minority. But I guess, truth be told, I've been telling myself I want to figure out how to work with people, not because I feel like, this is me being honest, not because I feel like I need nobody, but because I know
May I say something, bro? To say what you're saying.
most of.
Um, what's it called? At the end of the day, this is all it's all biblical. It's all everything from the Quran to the Torah to the Holy Bible. They're all stem from Mosaic law, and Moses reunited the many tribes under one nation. You know what I mean? And that nation was of Moab, because not only did he marry a Moabite, but he died in Moab. His ancestors were Moab. You know what I mean? And that's where Al Moricanos. That's where Morocco. That's where that comes from. It's a people of Moab. You see what I'm saying? That was the original. That was the original covenant, reestablishing the covenant of one nation under God. Because, like you're saying, there's power through unity. You know what I mean? That's what in 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 every church, every congregation, they congregate, they come together. Because even like I said, during the time of Moses, it said when the Passover happened, if you had a one or two in your home, to go to your neighbor's home and put the blood over the door, because salvation is for the many. You see what I'm saying? For the congregation, bro, for the nation of people is what I mean, not it's not just for one person, not for two, it's for the many. And once you come into that mentality of one nation under God, that's where salvation starts. Allah is great. Allah is the only way, bro. That's the only trust in God, that what I mean, that we're supposed to come together under God's jurisdiction. Allah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call the name of the Most High. But that's where I'm gonna yield the floor at right there.
And it's all from the heart. Everything is from the heart. We passionate about people, and that's we talk about divine law, nature law, then we get into man-made law. But if the community is based on divinity, because if we're talking about unity, once again, we're talking about the covenant, like the brother said. Us uniting as a people is an honor, and it's in harmony with divine law. You see what's happening to our people when we don't unite. We all fractionalize. Like I say,
Yep.
gang culture, religion. We filling up the
Uh,
jails. They taking advantage of us. Everybody
uh,
that's united, they got their community. Like I say, little Saigon, Chinatown, Koreatown, little Bangladesh. That's a different frequency. The demonstration already being laid. Culture is where it's at. Unity where it's at. Period. There's nothing even to debate, right? So one body at a time. That's what it's about. When they talk about the 144,000, that's just people that's waking up during the time and they having this temporary physical experience. The ones that wake up and realize what this thing's really about, we unite. The nobles, right?
uh,
Create the nobility, create the royal families right now, right? We are ancestors. We the same people. It's just we have a view right now. But we can do the
to
same
get to get
works.
to get further into what we're talking about, since you brought up that flag, that's what
Mhm.
that flag mean right there. That flag is, the flag of Meshi. And what most people don't know is Meshi is the Turkish name for Moses. So that's where Meshi Khans come from, because they are what's it called, paying homage to Moses and Moab. But since You know what I mean? He's the one who reestablished that covenant to unite the many tribes. They pay homage to him by putting his name out front. Meshi Khans, Amaru Khans. Amaru means the same thing as Meshi, is the feathered serpent, because his other name was Kuku Khan, and that's Phoenician, and Kukuk El, that's just like Mafi El or Eduardo El or whoever El, and that's a noble title. Kukuk El and then Khan, the king. You see what I'm saying? The King of Kings, what we know in the Bible, Jesus. You know what I mean? He took that position.
So like anybody can get that, or like you gotta earn it.
You're realizing, bro. The whole point is they were Moses was a prophet, Jesus was a prophet, Muhammad was a prophet. They were just realizing who they were. You see what I'm saying? They were
Yeah.
identifying with God, not what your mama gave you, not what your daddy named you, not what the fucking a street, you know what I mean, neighborhood gave you. You see what I'm saying? They were identifying with God,
Yeah.
the essence of God um that animates the flesh. You see what I'm saying? When you are quiet and you have your thoughts, what do we call that? Your consciousness, your conscience. You have both sides to determine good from bad. Decision making, bro. And once when you have that, that's God within. If you feel me, like you animate your. That's what animates this fleshly body. And it says in the Bible that under the earth all is mine, under the heavens all is mine. So everything on the earth is of God, and that's the whole point. That when you're identifying with that, then there is no division. There is no, oh, this is only mine and my fleshly. You know what I mean? Like, so to say, if I identify with my fleshly name, my corporate name, and to say that this whole world was this the United States was like, that's what they're doing right now. That's what Trump is trying to do. He's really trying to, under the color corporate law, trying to claim that same type of deal, to be the sovereign of the land, and only him be the sovereign of the land, when it's, like I said, for the many. Out of one is many. That's in the Haitian flag, but you know what I mean. They were all part of the Americas. They were all Moors. Many tribes of Moors of the nation.
It's
And
just
could I say something real quick to the brother that was asking the question? I think I can give him a good perspective from someone that's young in the game that just started. You know what I'm saying? Um, Also with more science, brother, it makes you open up your spirituality and get in tune with your spirituality and get in tune with yourself and self mastery. You understand what I'm saying? Because once you obtain self mastery, you're closer to the Most High. You move close like the Most High. You know what I'm saying? So put that in perspective as well. A lot of things that have been fed to us have been upside down. Turned upside down, and my sheik and everyone else here is trying to reunite the people and reunite our ancient culture. And I yield. I'm at the gym, so I apologize for all the loud noise.
It's Hey, I am too, bro.
and and for the brother Troy too. Um, like I say, Eduardo, Mexican brother, right? So before you get this information, you thinking, oh, black, Latino. This space, this paradigm unites everything in the proper perspective,
No,
right?
yeah, I ain't really look at it that way. I kind of like, I don't know. Truth be told, I don't even partake in anything that can bring everybody together. I feel like one of my priorities is to make the minority the majority, and that's not like some like cool. It's like more like the reality of who I am. I realize I'm only one person, and I don't get to be more people, but I can have an effect on other people's lives that I feel like brings me closer to it brings me closer to myself every time I do that. You know, every time I'm able to come across somebody and make them either feel better or enlighten them in some way, shape, or form. You know, sometimes it's just seeing a smile on somebody's face. You feel me? And that I don't look at that like for any specific culture. Like my girlfriend Persian, you know what I mean? My girlfriend Persian, and like seeing how she interacts with her family and her community is like it's completely different from what the fuck I grew up seeing, you know what I'm saying? Like what I grew up watching type shit. I done tripped out on my girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? We done been together a little minute. I done really tweaked out, like really lost my shit. And like she was still able to like sit there and like look at me dead in my face and be like, you know what? I understand what's happening because I come from a whole nother, I come from a whole nother way of coming up. So I can see it. So I think I kind of already see that part, but in my mind, it's more just like it's more just like the community aspect. I guess because of how I came up, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not normal. You feel me? Like I got brothers to this day where like it's just seems like it's so fucking hard to work together, you know what I'm saying? But we really want to do it, you know what I'm saying? We had the conversations all the time, we call each other, check in all the time type shit, but the actual action steps, it'd be hard to do because it's like certain things that we be believing about ourselves that we'll project onto each other, you know, unnaturally. You feel me? I ain't never peep it till I got older, especially by having conversations like this. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was young, I ain't give no fuck. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like get mad at my brother, but you know what I'm saying, we'll be able to come together, you know what I'm saying, to get at the next nigga. So we're not really worried. But to act like to have a hard time working together as we becoming adults is actually like that shit don't be sitting right with me. I know it don't be sitting right with them, but I can tell like everybody not trying real hard to everybody not trying real hard to change. And I don't think it's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? But I know like it's something in me telling me that there's an ability out there, like there's a way of going about things out there that can produce like an immense level of success. You know, it's like uh, from what I've learned so far, right? There's like it's white folks out here who like white folks is like a or just less melanated people. They kind of like a mutation of a more melanated
Live.
people from a specific time period. You know, so we all connected in some way, shape, or form. But at some point in time these people came across something, whether that be knowledge, something physical, or something, you know what I mean, that was able to, you know, project or propel them into a certain trajectory, into a certain like atmosphere of life, a certain way of living. And I feel like I've been seeing that. And I don't hold none of these folks against like I don't hold none of these folks against like I don't put none against these folks like when people be telling me about slavery and stuff like that, I really be feeling like, man, everybody was slaves before. Fuck, like look, I'm gonna be mad at somebody for. I don't see myself being mad at somebody for making my ancestors slaves when I know damn well, like everybody been, in my opinion, everybody was a slave at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna be mad at somebody for something that's not being done to me right now. You know, I really want to just figure out how can I better my life and the people around me. You know, and that's everybody. That ain't got nothing to do with color. That ain't got nothing to do with sex. That ain't got nothing to do with background, you know what I'm saying? That ain't got nothing to do with none of that. It's just more like I really want to tap into that part of life because I'm seeing it's real. Every time I meet like somebody who really done made like a couple $1,000,000 or they made even a couple $1,000, but they was able to use that couple $1,000 to really help their people. They don't even care. They don't even care like about money for real. But every dollar they get, they use it for their people. And when you talk to them, you can feel that energy. Like man, they don't care about nothing else but what they care about and they love who they are type, you know. And I think it's something to be tapped into. But I feel as though God put me on this planet to do something different. Like I'm supposed to get a lot of money because I'm supposed to be able to get a lot of people involved. That's how I feel, you know. So that's just kind of where some of my questions derive from because like that's how I feel. I got a lot of brothers now. I got a brother that I was born with, but I got a brother that I created without trying. Like I wasn't trying to do that, but after like they hear my vision, you know, they hear my thought process, they hear how I want to go about shit, they just tap in, you know, they stay tapped in. You know what I'm saying? It ain't no fallout, you know what I'm saying? It'd be hard to kind of communicate to them that like it take a team. Like they say it take a village. It's the same. It'd be hard to communicate that part, but they still like they're interested in the idea of working together and coming together to create something bigger. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like shit, the day gotta end. And it's like what do you have? What do you have when it's all gone? Like what are they saying about you? You know, what is your lineage? What is your legacy? You know, shit like that. I don't think that got nothing to do with no color or nothing like that. It's just more like who you are. So that's why I like tapping in with y'all. It's like I want to know who y'all are. I want to know like what is it that I'm if I'm coming and I'm listening and I'm trying to, you know, what is it that I'm listening to? You know, who is it that I'm listening to? What are y'all really stand for? You know what I'm saying? Is it just like the books and some action, or is it more like, you know, we here for this. You know, we taking action on a daily basis. We doing this because of this, you know, certain shit. But I'm hearing it though. It ain't like I'm not hearing. I hear it. I just want to make sure, you know it. And in my mind, it's a lot of things. I feel like I already kind of understand. Not saying I know everything. I know I don't know everything. But in terms of like diversity and inclusion, I think I already get that, you know, or else I wouldn't have joined. I wouldn't have joined the call. You feel me? If I didn't feel like, because I could have been anything. I could have right now, like y'all. When I first joined, I could have been anybody. I could have been some random white man looking to plot on y'all. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not. You know. So I don't know. I don't look at it that way.
Yeah, and I appreciate your thoughts, man, and that's what this is about. You might not know exactly to the T. I know I spoke with you about the organization in summary when I first met you. You got the merch. But what this is about is on the principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Before you know any specifics, you felt the love, you knew it was something positive. And as you jumping on the call, you see the, like you said, the diversity. So the energy. And that's really what it's about, is creating that community. What we're doing is one, doing that. And since you're asking the questions as far as the path, how it's supposed to work ideally, you come together like that, learn your culture, right?
Mm.
Everyone on this whole planet has a culture outside of the North American melanated people identified as black, Negro, colored. There's people as dark as us, but everywhere in the world they got culture, and they work together to a degree. Are people in the islands, for example, Haiti,
Mm.
Jamaica, Belizeans? They got a sense of working together. You go to South Central, they got Belizean area. They got businesses. They're very industrious. It's just our people identified as black, African American, bought into I was a slave, Negro, don't know where they stand. Is the only people that's we filling up the jails. We not unified. We got hate, right? NBA rapper. That's the only space we trying to. You feel me? So what
Yeah.
we trying to do is not only unite, because you're right. That's the bottom line. We do. It needs to be that love vibration. It needs to be some community, but we need to know our culture, political status, structure, finance, how to create generational wealth, trust law, right? Being industrious, entrepreneurship, right? We trying to create an environment. Like I say, we trying to farm, breathing exercises, history, law, and a demonstration. And what happens is when the more we demonstrate, your friends that you was telling us about, they're going to be more inclined to tap in with the unification of it, because some people got to see a demonstration first, because like our people been jaded. Like you just said earlier, what's this about? Is this about learning the information? Okay, fine, all this information, but what's that do for me in my life today? These is valid questions. So what happens is we need people energy, right? At one point, I didn't even know my culture and my nationality, what a Moor was, what we did for civilization, the government. I didn't know nothing. I learned the truth, which is the light. I was inspired. And then now my job is to inspire everybody else on the possibilities of what we can do when we can unite. Now we got an organization. Now we got some trajectory, right?
Mm.
But at first it was just a thought. That's what it's about. Like-minded, gravitating with like-minded people. Central finances create internal banks with each other, treasuries with each other. Use that for capital and business moves to flip it. You have a think tank learning about culture and law. As we get bigger, people show interest. The members that are getting more competent can talk to their friends and family at a more intelligent tone now about what we're doing. Let them know how they connected, no matter what their skin tone. Because you said your girlfriend is Persian. When we get into that, we gonna you can show her how she connected to this. I don't know if she's from Iran or Iraq, but we can specify how she's connected to the Moorish paradigm, and that comes from study, that comes from scholarship. So we're taking an intellectual approach and creating a unity in the community, because everybody don't know what this is about. Like you said, how do I fit into this? What is this about? Right? So we get the information, but be active. Khalifa Society, activity. The purpose of getting the info is to do something with it, unite, get competent, tell more people so they can unite. Now centralize finances for business moves. get land, housing, capital, and just take off. Like every other people that got a culture around here. That's what they've been doing, and we just late. We just trying to we're trying to get this thing going. You feel me? And that's what inspires me personally, my day to day is creating that. I want to see community. I want to see intelligent people. I want to have a brother sisterhood with the people, right? So hopefully that answered your question, man. And I'm glad you tapped in, man, because this is where it's at. I feel the vibration from you. You know, you want to feel that love, bro. That's what it's about. Our people at you're not the only ones. A lot of our people that want that, but they've been jaded, been scorned, been taught a certain way, got an inferiority complex. That's why our people, melanated people in North America, ain't united. We the only ones. We spend money with everybody else. We put energy into everything else but unity, right? So obviously, this is where it's at, right?
Uh,
And you can see we inspired. I'm pretty sure you can see I'm passionate about it. I'm serious about this, right?
mm,
Right. Every time I met you, I try to drop some jewels on you about you know what I'm saying.
so,
It wasn't just about the t-shirt, right? It wasn't just about you buying some merch from me. It was about come tap in with the community, man. That's what I do it for, right?
facts.
So that's where we at. Uh, all right. So for today's demonstration, let's get into the Mexican flag and tie it to how it's tied to the Moorish paradigm. All right. So Eduardo L, I'm gonna go into a little summary. I'm gonna give you the floor. I just want to lay a foundation. Then we can go back and forth, but I want you to just go in. All right. So we're looking at the Mexican flag. We got the bird and the serpent. All right. Now the bird and the serpent is tied into Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl. All right. So Quetzalcoatl, the plum serpent god of the Toltecs and the Aztecs, and we know more ancient civilizations, the Olmecs. And just for the brothers, sister brothers right here, I do want to show the Olmec right quick. And as you see, the Olmec, that's the oldest civilization of our people. You see the headdress on the Olmecs over here to the far right. You see they got the same fez and tassel that I'm wearing. The ancient civilizations, the mothers and fathers, the original communities on Americas that built the pyramids in Mexico, the pyramids in Belize, the oldest pyramids in the world was our people, the Moors, in what they call Mesoamerica, which is just middle. All right. So I just want to get a little background for the new brother to show how we tied in. And this is what we use to unite with our Mexican brothers and sisters. Um, one of the things. All right, so let's get back into this Mexican flag, which we see dealing with Quetzalcoatl. I'm gonna be referencing for the most part a book that came before Columbus, The African Presence in Ancient America by Ivan Van Sertima. All right, so Quetzalcoatl. No one definition can embrace Quetzalcoatl, and as you'll see, as a brother Eduardo, it's a metaphysical demonstration. It's a literal demonstration. It's a principle demonstration dealing with Quetzalcoatl. He had several representations or aspects. He was the feather serpent king and rainmaker god in Central America. Quetzal, which is bird or plume, and Quetzal is serpent, right? So Quetzalcoatl just means bird and serpent or feather serpent, signified a connection between bird and snake. All right. So the bird and serpent motif and the winged disc symbol traveled in ancient times to America. We find not only clear evidence of the Egyptian prototype in the winged disc of ancient Mexico and Polynesia, but we find it used in the same way. The ancient Egyptians placed the image of the winged disc over entrances in the inner chambers of a temple. So what Ivan Van Sertima is doing is doing a comparison. The ancient Egyptians on their temples had the same thing that the ancient Mexicans had in their temples, right? These winged discs, the feather snake, bird feather combination. He's laying a foundation. This must be the same culture. And once again, for the new brother, in the ADAB lessons, we talking about Northwest Africa, we standing on it, right? When they talk about ancient Egypt, Nefertiti, we're not talking about after World War II, the reconstruction of what they call Egypt in 1940s. that jurisdiction was called the Middle East didn't exist. That's a new concept after 1940. But those are more that the adept lesson that I understand you don't understand right now. But I'm just throwing that in there. So let's continue. Sometimes a symbol was simply the winged disc without the serpents. In pre-Columbian America, the winged disc was placed on temple doors, lintels, as in Egypt, because this is ancient Egypt. The Polynesian, and when we say in Polynesian, we're talking about our Samoan brothers, Tongan brothers. These are all Moors. I got evidence of the last king of Hawaii fessed up. All
Salam.
right,
Real
so
talk.
we can go into that too. Um, because it shows the disc and the head of the bird devouring the serpent, the secondary bird of Africa, with which seafarers have become familiar. Professor Elliot Smith has shown how Egyptians influenced the symbolic gateways in Asia. The winged discs of Egypt on the gates represent the means of communication between the living and the dead. And I know the brother gonna go into how that's higher self, lower self, right? So they try to make it spooky. Europeans try to make ancient culture um like spooky, like voodoo and witchcraft. But when we saying the living and the dead, we talking about the light versus the dark, higher self versus lower self. So I'm going to throw that in there. Self mastery. Islam is an acronym for the adepts, for the Muslims. I self law and master. All right. Can you master your behavior and do noble things? Right. All right. So communication between the living and the dead, and symbolically the portal by which the dead acquired a rebirth. Right. Dead state of mind, rebirth into a new form of existence. All right. So that's a little I wanted to lay the foundation, because remember, this was coming out the Mexican flag. We looked at the Mexican flag. Now we have a better perspective. Like, oh, we're looking at the Mexican flag. I see this bird and a serpent. What's the origin behind that? Right. Um, Also, I wanted to go into this before I get a brother the floor and let him go in. When we are looking at ancient Egypt, we're looking at ancient Egypt, the dynasties of ancient Egypt, the different pharaohs, the dynastic periods. Now we got timelines: early dynastic period, old kingdom period, first intermediate period, middle kingdom. Right now, these is dates. Oh, what corresponds to these dates? Could it be the Olmec civilization? People building the pyramids in the Americas? Yes. Right? Olmec civilization, regarded as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, thrived approximately 1200 to 400 BC, which is present day Mexico. These are the pyramid builders. This is ancient Egypt. This corresponds to the dynastic period of ancient Egypt. When we say ancient Egypt, we're talking about the Americas. So I just wanted to lay that foundation. Uh, you got the floor, brother Eduardo. Any direction you want to take it?
No, I sent you some pics for what's it called? Reference.
You email them? Oh, my Instagram. Okay.
Because well, yeah, a lot of people don't know is like you read the old books and it tells you, you know, exactly, pretty much verbatim what Grand Sheikh Abdul Ali was teaching. You know what I mean? You read the Mexica Codex, they emotionally. That's what they emotionally is. So, you know, in the language of Nahuatl. If you read the Popol Vuh, which is the Mayan part, it's you know what I mean. They're all allegories of the same concept, and the concept is Venus, and you know that's what the Moroccan flag is behind the brother Mafia right now. It's Venus, so that synonymous with Quetzalcoatl, synonymous with Kukulkan, synonymous with Ra. You know what I mean? All these different um phonetic things is that's what it represents, and like you can tell as well, that flag is green and red, just like the Mexican flag. is also green and red. But to go further, it has white in the middle, and that's for the purity, which a lot of our Islamic brothers in the East still wear. You know what I mean? In Africa, they identify as white. You know what I mean? But it's not complexion that they're talking about. It's they dress in pure white, and that's what Quetzalcoatl did as well. It's purity in God. Like they say, cleanliness is next to godliness, and that's where you get the um, ritual of baptism or cleaning yourself before going into mosque, because they also do that. You see what I'm saying? It's the waters being clean, being clean. It's the being pure. Your sins, the dirtiness of this world, the physical realm, you are cleaned off by the waters, the holy waters, the holy scripture. My bad, it's kind of loud in here. Like I said, I'm at the gym as well.
I can hear you clear. I think everybody can hear you real clear.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you see those flags right there too are also older flags, especially the one right below. They just put the little spin on it. So it says Del Norte because he was the general of the North, but they were standing on de jure um, government as well, and that was the time of Zapata and Pancho Villa, and Zapata actually spoke Nahuatl, and so you gotta comprehend at that time, Mexico was, Mexico was it's an ancient word, but it's in Spanish to the Spaniards they say Mexico. I was properly translated as Mexico and Meshem, the land of Shem. But since Spain had came and pretty much took over, um, Zapata, people like Zapata and Villa, it was more Zapata. He was more political and more well versed in what's it called? Oh yeah, knowing you know the law, maxims of law. So, but the thing is, like, they couldn't just send out messages to the neighboring pueblos and be like, "Hey, we're gonna revolt at this time and this date." So what they would do is, since he spoke the language, he spoke Nahuatl, he would send out messages in the mother tongue because the majority of the true Mexicas, the true indigenous Moors spoke their tongue, the majority. And that's another reason why, here in the northern part of America and in Mexico, they, like I said, it means the same thing. But like I'm saying, there was two different colonist groups, aka the Spanish and the English. They forbid the speaking of the indigenous language, and they wanted you to speak their own. That makes sense because language is also what um unites us. If you feel me, what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't know this either. But like Brother Mafi was saying, Commission and Nawat are very similar in their phonetics because they are both direct, you know what I mean, descents of Maya people, the Mayat, the Olmecat, that those people, the Talatlaca, aka the Tolteca. Um, yeah, like if you look up the word Siwa, it does come out a lot in Egyptian Kemetic words, and the word Siwa in Nawat means woman, the womb of man.
Now, what about this picture
So
right
much that they
here
have.
with this circle right here that you circle?
It's the cross, bro. Quetzalcoatl. The cross is the symbol of Quetzalcoatl as well, or Kukulkan. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, Venus. It's just another symbol. Like the whole point in all this. They took pretty much the Vatican took all these signs and symbols, and now they use it for their own perverse agenda. Because another thing is Vatican is Vatican. If you look up Bantuk, Bantu, that's like I said, another um, African dialect word, but it also is synonymous with Asian because, like I'm telling you, back in those days, they were all one people. Bantu Khan translates to the Khan of Khans or Kukulkan or whatever you want to call it, but
Right.
these
Like
are just
that.
high rank, yeah,
Well, we
high
got a
rank.
question. Well, 1 second, we got a question in the chat. Go ahead, Kyle.
Islam Noble.
Um,
Uh,
My question is pertaining to ancient Mexico, and we know that half of the map of North America leading down into the south, or not the south of what we know the south today, but you know what I'm saying, the southern region of Mexico today, was all one. So was the language spread throughout that entire how can you say?
there was different dialects. Even today, bro, you go to Mexico, there's different dialects. But the whole point of it is like I'm telling you, the Maya, the Mayas spoke Phoenician. That's the original language of man.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The it's still written today too. Like it's Las Lunas, New Mexico. There's it's still written in Old Phoenician, which is what they call Old Ibri or Old Hebrew. You see what I'm saying? And that's where a lot of these other dialects branched off into, but that was the language of commerce. Like what Mafi was saying, like today we have to, what I mean, reestablish covenants and what's it called, trusts, so we can take back our estates to well, yeah, in commerce. Back in those days, before they made it incorporated, and they changed the language of commerce to English, which is another form of Moorish Latin, it was all in Phoenician. You see what I'm saying? It's written in the original trust, which is the covenant under the Most High, which is recognized by every nation under the Torah, the Quran, Holy Bible. You see what I'm saying? It was written in that language, and that's why I'm saying it was um what's it called, systematically and strategically put into place where you, whatever tribe you're from, whatever, you know what I mean, because out of many is one nation, but every
Hmm.
tribe, like you said, has their different dialects. Everybody was forbidden to speak their original dialect, if you feel what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if
Yep.
we all spoke, or your grandmama or whoever, you know what I mean, still spoke the language, it would be easier to make what's it called, these connections, because at the end of the day, a lot of these languages are more in common than not. Because, like for example, it's documented in the University of Arizona in what's it called, in Tucson. Back in the day, uh, 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 um, one of the professors had hired a chef, and he was of Chinese nationality, but he spoke the Tartar dialect because in China they speak Tartar and they also speak Mandarin. You see what I'm saying? These are different, like you're just asking, different dialects, but yes, they're of the same nation. And when he hired this man, he came across him speaking to an indigenous Apache. You see what I'm saying? And when he asked him, where did you learn the, you know what I mean? Where did you acquire the language of the Apache? Where did you learn to speak Apache? Or the indigenous Indian, he said, quote unquote, Indian language. But all he said was, I'm a Tartar Chinese. And he speaks very little different, but it's the same language.
Now,
Now, what does that tell you?
Tartar is short for Tartarian, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, this was Tartaria, bro. That's just more evidence behind all of this. You know what I mean? Like, and there's another book um I had read. I don't have it on me right now, but I had read it, and it's on my page, where it also, in that same book, it proves the Circle Seven Quran to be factual, because it's pretty much documented that Jesus was in Tibet and Egypt, and just like the Circle Seven says. But anyways, in that same book, it also says, right before you get into that, it says that the Japanese and more from Mexico or Mexico would be able to speak without a translator, because it's more than 60% the same. You see what I'm saying? Like Brother Mafia was saying, like this was all, we were seafarers before the Great Deluge, and um the continent split. This was one big giant continent. You see what I'm saying? And another way we can prove that is, like, bro, I was born in El Paso, Texas, which is West Texas. And one time we went back out there and we were shooting out there. My pops used to take us shooting, target practicing. And we was out there in the desert, and I seen a African antelope out there, bro. An African antelope. And back then I didn't, this was when I didn't know none of this, more science or anything. But, I was like wondering, how did this shit get out here? And you ask these people and they'll tell you, oh, we brought it. But you put this into perspective. How did they claim that they brought the horses. They claim that they brought the antelope. They claim that they brought the people. You know what I mean? None of that shit adds up. But, they didn't have no Noah's Ark type shit. Like,
I got it.
everything was already here, bro. This is West Africa.
All right, it's a great segue, man. I gotta get this off, man. I forgot I had this queued up anyway. I'm glad you got into it. So this is a book called When Rocks Cry Out by Horace Butler. Quote unquote, Egypt had crossed the Atlantic Sea in ships more than 10,000 years before the time of Christ. They had built the world's largest cities in South and Central America and in Mexico. They had united those city-states into a nation that stretched from Brazil and South America to Mexico and to Africa. Most modern historians deny passionately the transatlantic origin of the Aztecs. The censor or interpreter of the work failed to continue using Moorish and dark complexion to describe the Mexicans. So dark-skinned people is Moors, right? And this is Old Egypt. The African
Um,
presence, the African presence was effectively hidden even while the descriptions exposed the people's braided hair, Moorish clothing, their mosques, African police system, and African ornamentation. Spanish writers who saw the Aztecs and who knew the Moors had revealed that the Aztecs even wore the same clothing used by the Africans called Moors. 1 month later, I found the Aztec history that removed the doubt regarding whether the Aztecs had an association with Mali Empire. The Sultans, Abu Bakari and Mansa Musa connected with the Aztecs. When you read the book, they came before Columbus, they're gonna tell you how Abu Bakari traveled over here, and actually he was deified and called Quetzalcoatl in the flesh. That's a whole nother degree because they use Quetzalcoatl in a dogmatic way too, but we didn't get into that aspect. So, um, right, Aztec association with the Mali, right? According to a European friar, the Aztecs named their first colony Malinicolo, Malinaco. It was no coincidence that England named its settlement New England or that Spain named its land in America New Spain. The relationship between Mali and the Aztecs became clearer when I saw what a translator put in his notes about the Mali traditions. Right? So that's a quote from, and we just cross-reference what we're talking about here to show you that this is not hidden information. It's just our people don't like to read. We lazy. We got short, you know, attention spans. We can't read 4 or 5 pages without getting tired. But the truth is out here about what we demonstrate. You know what I mean? And we ain't even went into the congressional records and case law and international law to talk about people classified as black, Negro, colored, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Indian, Native American as Moors. We didn't even get into that demonstration, right? We just right. So you got the floor, Guado. I just want to throw that in there.
Islam, that's what's up. Nah, it's real talk though. That's what's going on out here, bro.
Now, can you go to the Quetzalcoatl? Because I went to a Quetzalcoatl, which was the image of the Mexican flag. Let me bring that visual up. Can you go into a different degree um, than I did as far as the meaning of Quetzalcoatl? Higher, lower Egypt, higher
Well,
self, lower self.
if we're gonna get back into it, like you said, bro, um, it was used in a dogmatic way, because what people don't comprehend, right? If we all know the story of Moses. What did Moses do? He freed the people from Pharaoh, Farouk Khan. You know what I mean? That's another Pharaoh Khan. It's the same thing, bro. It means Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl. That's what it means. These are all interchangeable titles. But like I'm telling you, it varies upon the dialect. You feel me? Because what it was is Ramses, you know what I mean? He was using Pharaoh or the title of Kukulkan in a dogmatic sense. And that's how he was able to systematically capture the 12 tribes one by one because they were divided and put them into indentured servitude. You see what I'm saying? Like he was using that dogmatic title of God in the flesh, but in other words, how are you going to use that title of God, but rule from your lower self? You see what I'm saying? And that's what was going on, and I feel like that's what's trying to go. Like they say, history repeats itself. That dude Trump, he's heading that way, bro. They're trying to give him absolute power in the corporate jurisdiction, but like we said, the majority of these people don't know the difference between God's law and their statutes, their corporate statutes. So like at the end of the day, history is repeating itself. That's what happened back then, and if people don't stand on their square, people don't stand on civics, then those people will be lost. You know what I mean? But we're here to uplift fallen humanity and get this information out there, bro. Like you said, bro. But yeah, even that flag right there, like that's Egypt, bro. Egypt, what does it mean? It means eagle. You see what I'm saying? So that like if we're going back into the what's it called? Esoteric part of it, the depth part, um, the eagle conquering the serpent is your higher self, which is your most high um eyes, mind would be the eagle, and your lower self being the serpent. You see what I'm saying? And in other words, if your higher self don't take control of your lower self or your cardinal self, your cardinal flesh, your wants and your needs, then ultimately you become a slave to your cardinal self, if that makes sense. Like, people have their vices, drugs, alcohol, everything, like everything you could think of that's the seven deadly sins as opposed to the seven virtues. You know what I mean? The circle seven. It's a circle, it goes both ways. You know what I mean? And that's what the Freemasons really are. You know what I mean? They're just it's the circle seven. They go off the circle seven too. Like I shared it with you. There's a it says the chloron versus the choron. That's what the KKK use. You know what I mean? The KKK is they're taking the title of Kukulkan and they're perverting it. You know what I mean? And
That,
that's why
that, I got I got a question, brother, pertaining to what you just were talking about. I thought Freemasons study like King Solomon's doctrine. Is that true or that's false?
it's just the whole point in all this, bro, is this it's all the same science. The circle seven, it's the circle. That's what I'm saying. Like if you look at their book, it's the same things, the same principles and everything. They just pervert it. It's just perversion. It's like I'll put it to you like this. It's like your grandmama's recipe, you know what I mean? And she has this good, recipe for menudo or cornbread or whatever. And one of your cousins, for some reason, you know, out of spite, or your aunties, um, are gonna switch everything of those ingredients that make her recipe, switching them backwards. You know what I mean? Just to out of spite, out of um, what's it called? Well, yeah, the opposite, like perversion. Like if you ain't right, you're left. You feel me? What I'm saying? Like they're just in like the cross, for example. They say when you invert the cross, that's satanic worship, right? Why? Because they say that the cross is a holy um symbol, but in reality, we know what it means, and them inverting it is just them trying to disrespect the order. Like another analogy would be when you this agenda that they have right now, this agenda of LGBTQ plus, because now they're trying to add the P at the end, which is pedophilia. You know what I mean? Like all these things that they're doing is systematically for the grand scheme. Not only are they getting you to identify with more um what's it called, psychotic ideologies, because if you think that you're a man and you're a woman, or you think that you're a woman and you're really a man, you know what I mean, that is mental illness. And for you to get other people to agree with what you're saying, you're getting other people to agree with your mental illness. They are by definition mentally ill or psychotic, or you see what I'm saying? This is what they're doing. Like it's all part of their agenda.
Yo, so I got a two-part question for you, Noble. Um, so okay, so when you referencing esoteric, one thing that stands out to me about this flag is the crescent moon that the eagle is standing uh on top of, which would be in relation to Sufism,
Mm.
um, which would be that reef underneath it. I don't know if that's a reef or whatever that little
It's a
grass
it's a
is.
cactus. It's a
Oh,
cactus.
is that cactus? Oh, okay, I can't see.
Yeah, yeah, but
Okay,
it's
so
on
that
it's on the water. So yeah, it's like a
yes,
reef.
Yeah, so that would signal to me the crescent moon and Islam. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On top of that, um, I thought the serpent in ancient times resonated with divinity
With knowledge.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
supreme consciousness.
Yep.
Hmm.
Exactly. But that's the whole point here. That knowledge is knowledge. It's a tool. It can be used for good or evil. And if you're higher self and in charge of that knowledge, then you will fall victim to abusing that knowledge. And that's what Pharaoh did, bro. Pharaoh came Ramses came from a line that they were of like that's what I'm saying. Like I read well obviously the Circle Seven, but you know the Circle Seven they're correcting the parts of the Bible where they left out his adolescence. You know what I mean? Where was he before? You know he
Talking about,
was
we're talking about Yahshua. We're talking about quote unquote
yeah
Jesus. That's what he's speaking
Yahshua
of.
exactly Yahshua. You know what I mean? Um, where was he during those times that were missing in the Bible? Well, that's parts that were taken out of that Bible. That's why they copyrighted versions of the Bible. That's why there's a King James version. You see what I'm saying? Because they own the copyrights, they own the transcription, and how are you supposed to interpret this version? Or you know what I mean? This means this because of this. You feel me? What I'm saying? So to get back to your question, if you read the book of Enoch, that was another book that was taken out of the original scripture. You know what I mean? What's up, boss? How you doing, B?
So
Um,
so as far as Kyle I was saying about the serpent, we got different degrees. So we know the serpent represents, it could be the energy flow that's going up the spine into the medulla oblongata activate, or the pineal, activates.
um,
It can come back down. If you're not having sex, then you're not gonna spill the cup. Then it's gonna regenerate again.
Islam.
Breathe. That's one degree. But like the brother was saying, when you abuse the power, or you're not in control, now you got to tame that serpent. So that's what this is really about. Controlling your lower self, right? Because if you
So,
abuse, you know,
because if knowledge is power, bro, then you know
With
what I
that
mean.
being said, what y'all talking about right now, does that intertwine with the story about the Garden of Eden? Like, that's why the Most High didn't want us to know the difference between good and evil, because He knew ahead of time that some of us would not be in control of our higher and lower self. Hence the reason of what the brother is explaining right now. So, does this intertwine with the tree of knowledge thing or whatever? I'm just asking.
It does, bro. Because if you look, that's why I was trying to get into with the other day. There was a discussion about what's it called, the Sumerians. You know what I mean, being the same people as the Olmecs or the Talatlaca or the you know what I mean, the Mayans, the older civilization. You know what I mean? The reason why we can prove that as well is because if you look at not only the culture, but like I said, the language, it's really synonymous. It's really the same. And if we take that into consideration, then what does it say according to the Sumerians? That there was a people called the Anunnaki. You know what I mean? There was a someone called Inki, and then another person called Enlil. You know what I mean? That's synonymous with Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca. They were the same essence that split apart from one another and in, incarnated as so-called good and so-called evil, or light and darkness. You see what I'm saying? These are all can be interpreted as, like you're saying, esoteric, and that's where they get the ideology of God and the devil. You see what I'm saying? But like I'm saying, we no, but Grand Sheikh Abdul Ali says that we gotta get back into the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers, So to me, that means we got to read their books. We got to know what it is that they was talking about. Where was their mind at when? You see what I'm saying? In Commission, it would be the same thing as Set and Osiris. You see what I'm saying? These are all, in all reality, they're the same stories told in different dialects from place to place, you know, nation to nation, but the knowledge is still there, bro.
All right, so look, I got.
Let's follow on that. So I'm sorry,
Oh, go
Kyle.
ahead. Go ahead. Nah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I got one more thing. Like I ain't even trying to, but it's on my spirit. So the original thing our ancestors were supposed to do was exist in the garden, but not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So where do you think in your level of knowledge that you are right now, where does that leave us fast forward to the day if originally we really weren't supposed to be tapping into everything? So now that everybody's tapped in, you know what I'm saying? What do you think that leaves us as far as being guided and things of that nature? If our ancestors really weren't supposed to kind of do it, if you get what I'm trying to ask or whatever?
I hear what you're saying. That's like,
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's like I told you. If you they tell you in simplest form from the Sumerian tablets that the two protagonists and antagonists of the story of Enki and Enlil, it pretty much went. One of them wanted to keep us enslaved because we were made for a purpose to mine a certain uh what's it called, gold, you know what I mean, for their what's it called, their planet. This is just how it reads in that story, you know what I mean. We were made for that purpose. We were spliced with their genes to the people who are already living in this realm, so we can, like, in other words, our DNA was brought up to par without having to go through evolution. And since we served our purpose, one of them said that we were to be slaves forever. And the other one said that since we have their blood running through our veins, that makes us an image of God, or in the likeness of God. So that means that we were to have that same free will, that same, like it says in the Bible, you know what I mean? The pursuit of happiness, the knowledge to dictate for ourselves. Islam,
Consciousness.
I self law and master. You feel me? And that's what all the wars have been about. It's been about knowledge. Are you worthy of the knowledge, or are you just gonna abuse it like how they were? In other words, people that want to have control don't want other people to have the knowledge to control the serpent, because they cannot tame their serpent, and they abuse, you see what I'm saying, their power, which is, in all reality, if you read, the I'm just gonna reference a book again. Like I'm saying, the teachings of Quetzalcoatl. If you read that book, it's really the same thing of what Noble Drew Ali is preaching in the Circle Seven. Like everything adds up. It's the same adept version. It's just summarized in yeah, the Theo Mosley, which is the Mexica version of all this adept science. And it's a lot of things. It's a lot of thinking. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, The knowledge is there, and it even says there too that the bottom line principle is love. You see what I'm saying? And like I'm telling you, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca are opposites. Quetzalcoatl was considered the embodiment of love, and Tezcatlipoca was considered the embodiment of the opposite of that. You feel me?
Yep. Higher self, lower self, man.
Hey,
Yep.
yo, I had a question for the brother real quick before we move on.
Fine.
Islam. So one, I wanted to say something to Brother Hassan as far as like my understanding of Adam and Eve is dealing with and I believe we went over it in class before too, but with the right hemisphere and the lower and the left hemisphere of the brain. It's a story of analogy. It's not necessarily meant to be taken literally
Yeah.
because even in Genesis it talks about Adam coming before Eve when we know that's a damn lie
Yep.
because all of us got a belly button. You heard me? So
Um,
it's a story of analogy. And um oh, my question is what relation does the now Mexican flag have to do with Italy? Because when we look at Italy, it's the same exact flag just without the symbol. And as far as my research has gone, um I don't have the exact source, but I've also heard things pertaining to the Moors of old time, which is our ancestors out there in Europe,
yep.
especially dealing with the colors as well. But was that brought over by the Spaniards, or I know you
The
showed
whole world was
a
ruled by Moors,
correlation with
bro.
the right? Yes,
The
sir.
whole world was ruled by like um I was
So
trying
was
to
that
show
was
you
it
guys
was that our flag over there in Italy at that time, or
every bro, the whole world was ruled by Moors. That's the whole point in all this. The root civilization. That's why I keep telling you guys. If you want to read teachings of Quetzalcoatl, that's where you know what I mean. Like how they talk about Toledo, right? Toledo and all those European kingdoms. That goes back to Tulan. You know what I mean? And that's the oldest civilization of the world's ancestors. Like every nation, every tribe goes back to that. In other words, that was the first civilization of this new people that we call, you know what I mean, Adamu, because that's what it really is. Adamu. That's the original dialects from, even in Zulu, in Zulu, which is one of the old dialects that, like he was just talking about Mali, and you got to comprehend that all these people were speaking similar dialects. That this is how they were doing commerce. This is how they were seafaring merchants. In order to be a seafaring merchant, you have to have a common language to do business and commerce. You feel me?
yes, sir, yes, sir. But just for from a historical perspective as well, before this flag was erected on the soil, we were all underneath the Moroccan flag, correct?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Mafiel, if you, I had sent you some reference points when they invaded. You see, yeah, that one right there.
I guess what I'm asking is the today flag on Mexico soil is that flag erected by Spaniards in the Spanish Inquisition?
No, that's what I'm telling you. Look, if you look right there, these are all just different versions of the flag, bro. Because, for example, have you seen the old Moroccan flag with the hex alpha? That was just during a different time and a different
Mhm.
what's it called, regime, but they were still of the Moors.
Right, right. Oh,
So
okay. I see what you're saying. I see what
you
you're
see what I'm
saying.
saying?
Yeah.
Like that one right there too. Go if you go down a little bit, that one right there, exactly that one. You see what I'm saying? That it's an all red flag and the white in the middle, representing
Right.
purity in God, and they
Okay.
just added all that other things because at that time they spoke Spanish. They spoke Spanish and Nahuatl. But you see this they're literally flying the flag right there. That says the
Okay.
American and Mexican Empire, because Amaru gone and Meshi gone, Mexico, Amaruco. You know what I mean? It means the same
Right.
thing, bro. It's just because like it says in the Bible, like, bro, like our languages were switched on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, it was not by accident or coincidence. The everything is still there, bro. Like, if you read down right there where it says Popo Vuh, you probably can't see it that good. But right there it says, according to the old Maya, that one of the oldest flags of the clan flags was an all red banner. So what you're saying is correct, that it was the Moroccan flag, an all red banner. Al Morican, like Amarucan, it means the land of the feathered serpent, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, what I'm gonna say is that
reference a Moor, or is that picture reference kind of a Slavic nature? Because they're kind of pale skinned on the
Looking
picture.
on the
which
top
one?
right, see this crown right here? This crown right here, the Royal Registry below is the official digital list of records for the Imperial Moorish Moroccan Empire.
That right there is that's Geronimo. He was really the last chief, or sheik fighting out here, but he wasn't part of the capital empire. He was a part of the nomadic tribes, like it says in the Bible, bro. There was 10 tribes that went back into Eden. What is Eden? Eden is nature. They were nomadic. They lived out by nature. And if you see right there too, that's supposed to be right under where it says Ibri. That's supposed to be the two-headed eagle. See, this is from America, but they went that way, like what you were talking about. In modern day, that flag would be of Germany, but they come from over here. Another thing is, like, people don't know this too, but Hitler was a Moor. You know what I mean? Hitler was a
Hold on,
Moor. That's why they do that for
hold
Luke.
on, hold on,
In
hold
Mexico,
on
they
one
still
second.
do that.
I want to point out something because you brought something up. So you can give it. So this is when
We
a
just
brother
was
said,
talking about that, bro. We just was talking about that not too long ago, bro.
Mural too.
yeah, but he brought
Remember,
up.
Yep,
and
that's a fact.
y'all put the little Larry. I
Mexico, they
think
still
Larry
do
Bay
this.
put it in the chat.
I sent you the link. I sent you the link in the chat.
Oh, that was you. Okay, my bad.
But do y'all see this hex alpha that the brother was talking about earlier? So this is still that's another version of the Moorish flag. And then I want to make sure everybody understands or comprehend what he's talking about with this flag on the bottom. Right. Now let's go. Since he did that, they got to see another one. They got to see that flag because you said that's the same
You
flag in
cutting in
Germany.
and out, brother. You cutting in and out.
Did you hear? Did you hear about the hex alpha and the as above so below flag? And then I went to the bottom and I showed the flag on the bottom. Did y'all hear that?
You
You
said
cut off
something
when
about
Um,
the
you cut
flag
off when
in
you went to the
Germany. You
bottom.
sound
yeah,
better
when you
though.
went to the bottom.
Okay. All right. So see this bottom flag right here that the brother was talking about? Right here,
Yeah,
the double hit eagle.
yeah.
And then he said the flag of Germany. All right. And then so let's do now that when we go into St. Maurice more adept, you're gonna see the flag he holding up. St. Maurice, right? Everybody familiar with St. Maurice of Germany, right?
Yeah. 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 That's that picture from J.A. Rogers joint.
I think it is on there. Why ain't going to it? It's kind of
Yeah, he
lagging.
got like the war. He got like a war armor on or something like that. I don't know. He looked.
See that flag
He
right
had
here?
like something gold on it.
See this flag he holding up right here, the yellow one?
It
That's
ain't
that
loaded
same.
up.
It ain't loaded up yet,
Oh,
Mop.
there it
There you
is.
go. Word.
See right here in the yellow right
Yeah,
here?
look. Okay.
That's
Yep.
that same bird. It's just a yellow flag. I'm trying to
It's
have
the
one.
Phoenix. It's the Phoenix. To get further into depth with that, I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Maleficent. She's called the Queen of the Moors.
Look,
Mm-hmm.
look, look, look. Right here,
Turns
right here.
she turns into the Phoenix.
See right here? This yellow one is opened up. That's the same style.
Yeah,
It's the same style.
that's crazy, bro. And they would never teach that in no school, nowhere.
I'll find
That's
another.
crazy, bro.
But see, but now you see this was a Christian Moor. He was part of the noble family. He just wasn't Muslim. He was part of the Holy Roman Empire,
No.
right? But
Wow.
he's still a Moor.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
He
that's
has
why
it
they
right there
twisted,
too. Yup.
and they was able to twist Germany up with the Hitler bull, right? So that's why ain't nobody really looking at that type of knowledge in that area because they look at Germany as, oh, they don't like black people, they racist, they Nazis, don't even know what the symbol really mean, all that. This shit crazy, bro.
Uh-huh.
You got to think of it like this. I found pictures, and I mean, I probably have to go look through my storage, but there's pictures of um Africans. There's pictures of Arabians, Chinese, Asians, all under the Germanic flag of that time, fighting with Germany.
Mm.
Why would all those nations come together and fight if if the Germans were only accepting so-called um what's it called,
Aryan,
Aryan? Yeah.
Arian.
Aryan, blonde hair, blue eyed, yeah.
Well, in reality, I feel like the true blonde hair, blue eye Aryans were the tribes of like what's it called, the Polynesians. Because if you ever seen the Polynesian peoples, they're dark morenos, but they got blonde afros and blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
bullshit.
They
Yesterday I
they
was at the
sort of like
library.
the native Australians, like they got that type
Yup,
of look.
that's what I'm
Word,
saying. They're all the same people, bro.
Damn.
word.
Take clips.
But I'm saying, where the Australians, they got the skin color, but they hair damn sure Slavic, bro. How that happen?
It ain't, bro. Not everybody had like straight hair. Is not just, you gotta
A
think like,
Slavic shit.
yeah,
Okay,
straight hair
I
is
got
just like dark skin. It's a what's it called? Um, damn, I can't remember. It's a
It's
dominant
dominant.
gene.
It's
It's a
dominant.
dominant
Yeah.
gene. You know what I mean? Straight hair is a recessive gene. You
you.
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm
Correct,
saying? Curly hair is
correct,
a dominant gene. Dark hair
correct.
is a dominant gene. Brown eyes is a dominant gene. Blue eyes is a recessive gene. Blonde hair is a
Mm.
recessive gene. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
You gotta
Okay.
think of it like that, like, because even
I'm glad my
like you
eyes
say,
brown, man.
even Slavics have Moorish blood, bro. Or else how would they be? You know what I mean? It says it in that Yaqub used uh Moorish women in his experiments, bro.
He did.
But at
Um,
the end of the day, like that doesn't, like there was already, I've seen Moors that they, they're dark and they have straight hair. Like it ain't. You see what I'm saying? Like just
I mean, you
because
would think,
just be
like I'm saying, King, you would think they would be mixed with some other race if they had straight hair and they had dark skin. Like if you didn't know, if your
if you
eyes
didn't
wasn't
know
open to the truth,
exactly.
you feel me?
But
Yeah,
at the end of the
I
day,
wish.
it has to do with dominant and recessive genes, bro. That's just science right there.
yeah. Yeah, J. Rogers said in his book there's two different type of Negroids. One with kinky curly hair and the other with straight hair. That's why you got the Dravidian Indians, they got straight hair, but they jet black.
Yep.
They jet black for sure. Hey, I got a question for Mafia and Eduardo. Um um so how are we to observe the so-called classified Native Americans that's on the land today, knowing that they were here before the Europeans? Are they descendants from us as well, or did I know they migrated from?
You should read the book, bro. There's a book called what's it called? Um, The Conquest of Mexico by the Mongols. Okay, and in
Oh,
that one,
okay.
they're gonna try to throw you off because the biggest thing that they did, bro, was erase what's it called, Prester John from history. Prester John was Presbyter Khan and that translates from Latin to the serpent king or the serpent priest king, which that's literally what Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl means. He was that's why I was telling you, like, when you would, I don't know, when you asked, did the Europeans, was that our flags, and everything started here, and this is old Mecca. You know what I mean? That title of Khan of Khans, Kukulkan, King of Kings, King. You know what I mean? Like Jesus, the descendancy of Jesus. A lot of people, like I'm telling you, they believe in their hearts that Jesus never had a bloodline. How can that be?
Haile
You know what I'm
Selassie
saying?
is of the bloodline of Jesus, the emperor,
But
the
that's
first emperor.
exactly,
Correct.
exactly, bro.
That's why the
Exactly.
Jamaicans call him Jah Rastafari.
Yup.
The Jamaicans celebrate Selassie the first as they Jesus, if you will, excuse my language, as they Yeshua. You understand what I'm saying?
He
So
is of that blood. That is the truth. But the
that's
point is
crazy.
that if you read the book, what it was is they call him by a different name. They call him Young, Emperor Young, and he was of the Kate Mongols. He was a Mongol. Mongol doesn't, like, today we throw that word around, me thinking that only a certain type of Asiatics, but really what Mongol meant great. That's where the word mogul comes from. Like they say hip hop mogul, it just means somebody of great status or great stature. It was a noble title, bro. And he was the first one, from that bloodline to use it, like Quetzalcoatl, Monte Presbyter John, like he was Mansa Musa, and he was known as Mansa Musa in the east, but to the west he was known as Presbyter John. Why? Or Quetzalcoatl, because in the west that was synonymous with Christianity, so-called Christianity, or you know what I mean, the tribes of Yahudi. Like we're just lost in translation because that side of the world spoke more um Arabic than this side of the world spoke Phoenician. That's what I'm telling you. In Mexico today, they still speak Phoenician. They still speak uh Nahuatl. You know what I mean? That's a dialect of Phoenician. If you really get into it, Mayan and Nahuatl are literally like the same language for the majority of it. But yes, they are different dialects. It's a lot of information, but yeah. And anyways, to get back to what I was saying, basically Chinggis Khan, his father, and Prester Johns, they were like so tight. They made a blood pact to become brothers. And as you know, as adolescents, teens or whatever, younger. And when they grew up, Chinggis Khan actually by blood right challenged him, and he did win. So that's another thing. Like that's how he obtained the title of Khan of Khans, or Mongol Khan, Batu Khan. Do you see what I'm saying? And from that's why now today there is no history or record of Prester John, and if there is, they call him uh, a mythological Christian priest. They sort of wrote him out of history, because they will tell you, yes, in fact, that Chinggis Khan was the Khan of Khans or King of Kings of the world at one time, one period in time of the world, but they don't tell you how did he obtain such a position. Do you see what I'm saying? Where did he get it from? How what was the process? Did he inherit it? He was of the blood, yes, but he didn't inherit it. It's like chess, bro. They warred against each other. And that's what I'm saying. Like everything that Grand Sheikh Abdul Ali said it is factual, because we did this to ourselves. We give the Europeans too much power or
Credit.
credit. Exactly. When we did this to ourselves, fighting all those years ago, and because we forgot our history, that shit's still happening.
And Brother
And
Hassan,
it's an endless fight, because really the Slavs that's in positions of power in the government or the corporation, they don't recognize who we are and what we're doing in the court of law. We have to really fight for that recognition, and how we have to fight for that recognition is that we have to fight tooth and nail with law and the things that they already wrote in the books and the things that's
Islamism.
already been done. You know what I'm saying? So
Islamism.
it's rough, man. It's rough, but Islam.
Islam. And
You
once
never
again, I
you
come
never
to the
seen
unit.
that you never seen that video of the last pope getting down on the hands and knees to kiss one of the African
Yeah, yeah.
sovereigns? You see what I'm saying?
Kiss their feet. Yeah, yeah. I saw
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Because he did not identify with nothing other than his sovereignty. You feel me? His nationality and his sovereignty. Because there are still nations in the East that never forgot who they were.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? And kept true to their roots. And that's what it's about, bro.
I want to say something about the because I think it was Brother Hassan brought up Haile Selassie in Italy. So I wanted to talk about this demonstration and then read a passage from the Circle Seven and then ultimately close out. I wasn't gonna talk about, it, but like it seemed like it's divine for me to go into that space. So when you get into the adab lessons, you'll see that Haile Selassie, right? They'll say Ethiopian, he's
Ooh, this
Abyssinian.
is
He's Abyssinian, but he was also he wore another hat. He was the king of Italy at one point
ooh,
before he came over to the islands. He wore another hat. So
Islam.
when you talk about Rome, you talking about the melanated Abyssinians or the
Mm-hmm.
ancient Cushites that turned Roman, right? All right, so the Romans used the Slav as torpedoes, and when you talk about Reconstruction, that's who was behind the scene. We talking about the Red Shield, or what they call Rothschild. These is basically dirty Moors, right? So I want to do a little back. That's a whole nother demonstration. But Haile Selassie was the king of Italy, and then he brought in that culture. That's why they all Christian. That's why Rastafarians was Christians, right? Because we had Moors that was Coptic Christian, or was into Christianity, and then it got more watered down to a dogmatic Christianity. But
Islam.
these are basically dirty Moors. All right, so now look at the Venice. Venice is in Italy, so this is the Lion of Venice. When you say the Venetians, these were
Mm-hmm.
dirty Moors that still wanted to do trade like the Phoenicians. I'm talking about Hannibal Bay. They wanted to operate and look like the part, but there wasn't like the brother said, the dark energy, the dark magic, using the information to do, a secret society. Here that's the type of activity. Venetians distinguished from the Phoenicians. That's where you get Venice.
Yeah.
Selassie was part of that crew. He was the king of Italy. So now look at the imagery of the ancient or the Moors that was running Venice. See that winged lion? See this lion? That's
Yep.
Venice. Italian imagery. The black noble families, quote unquote, Christian Moors that was running the show, the Romans, Moorish Romans. Right now let's go to Jamaica. Let's look at the
Lion of Judah. Lion of
exactly.
Judah. Show the flag. Show the
You see,
flag. I'm
you see where
liking
we,
this.
you see where we're going?
Aslan, bro. Aslan.
Yeah. I'm liking this. Look at that. Yeah. Okay.
Right? They are ain't all the Jamaicans that are Christian. Now Haile Selassie, they Christian.
Word.
That's their pet, right?
They guard, but your mom, they guard over there in Ethiopia. They guard the oldest scripture, like them dudes, the Ark of the
Islam.
Covenant. That's in
Long.
Ethiopia. That's an untouched scripture. Like everything is in there. All the books is in there.
Long.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but that's just like I say, once that's why it's imperative law and history go together, so you just know how the story went down. That shows competence. That shows a competent heir. You just know your culture. You know how everything went down. You can't be played. You know why I fell. That's all competence at a national. You know, and now we the noble, so we trying to unite everybody in real time
Another thing
based
I'm
on
gonna say. Another thing I'm gonna say is about what she said about the lion. Is
Mhm.
you know how we claim ancestral lineage to the Atlanteans. You know what I mean? In Nahuatl, in Mexica, that was our ancestral land in the state too. And what it means is, I mean, what it translates to is Aslan. It means Atlantis, but in Turkish, Aslan means lion. You know what I mean? And that also um correlates to, like we were talking about, the Lion of Judah. And right here, you know what I mean, California, Arizona, and Utah. You know what I mean? Utah is Judah. You know what I mean? And Arizona, if you break down that word, it's Arisa, which is Arislan, which is another version of saying Aslan, and then Zona, which is more than in Spanish. It means the zone of Aslan. You see what I'm saying? Like, and then not only that, if you go into northern
Mm.
Mexico, there's a place called Leon. That it literally means it's the state. It's a state in Mexico. It means lion. And then you go to Leon, Guanajuato, and there they have a bunch of mummies, bro. A bunch of mummies. There's for displays of mummies. If you ever look up Leon, Guanajuato, and you look up the mummies, they have them like a pretty much a museum and a display because of all the mummies that were discovered there.
So cremation was never in our ancient culture. Am I correct on that?
I mean, you can't really say that because for every they do it, because even like I've heard of certain clans doing it here in America, and then I also heard of like the some of the Samoan tribes and the Hawaiians, that they would put their loved one on a raft and then burn it and then just push them out into the sea. But I mean, there's always, at the end of the day, we all, like it says in the Bible, as dust we are, and dust we will return. Our matter is gonna go back to Mother Earth, bro. That's what matter is of the mother. We are all from the mother, the womb of the mother.
That's fine. Um, Anybody got any other thoughts for I read a quote in the Quran, a chapter in the Quran rather, and close out? What was that? I wasn't over here. Oh, yours this one. I got all type of Qurans queued up. All right, so we had chapter 23, Holy Instruction for Thy Children. Consider thou art a parent, the importance of thy trust, the being thou hast produced. It is thy duty to support. Upon thee also it dependeth whether the child of thy bosom be blessing or a curse to thyself, and useful or a worthless member of the community. Prepare him early with instruction, and season his mind with the maxims of truth. Watch the bent of his inclinations. Set him right in his youth, and let no evil habit gain strength with his years. So shall he rise like a cedar on the mountains. His head shall be above the trees of the forest. A wicked son is a reproach to his father, but he that doeth right is an honor to his gray hairs. The soil is thine own. Let it not want cultivation. The seed which thou sowest, that also shall thou reap. Teach him obedience, and he shall bless thee. Teach him modesty, and he shall not be ashamed. Teach him gratitude, and he shall receive benefits. Teach him charity, and he shall give love, or he shall gain love. Teach him temperance, and he shall have health. Teach him prudence, and fortune shall attend him. Teach him justice, and he shall be honored by the world. Teach him sincerity, and his own heart shall not reproach him. Teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. Teach him the science, and his life shall be useful. Teach him religion, and his death shall be happy. All right, so we're talking about trust, estate. We're talking about beneficiaries. We're talking about the children. We're talking about anybody that's going to move the covenant beyond. They got to be taught to keep the show going, right? In a noble fashion. Any thoughts, statements, comments before we close out here?
Oh, I wanted to make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
So on July 13th, there was the Black and Brown event. I don't know if they're still having it, but my coworker reached out and said that pretty much they may change the date. So I just want to put that out there to anyone that would have possibly attended. So it's tentative.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts, comment, question before we close out in prayer?
July
Yeah,
28th.
I want to say one more thing, man, to the brother Eduardo, man. Appreciate you for your presence. Your presence has been a blessing, man, today for sure. Because I've been following you on IG for a while, bro. Even when I was in a lost capacity and dead capacity, man, we share some conversations or whatever the case may be, man. When I was inside of the 501c3s, man, and this brother right here, Mafiel, man, lifted me up out of that grave, man. And so for you to come in and do this teaching right now, man, was beautiful. So hopefully we get to see more of you for sure.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow.
He posted. Send me the link every time y'all on Sundays.
Wow. That's wow. Okay. So Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my God, and my salvation, night and by day. It was Holy Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. Yeah. Let me turn this real quick.